Morning, brothers and sisters, back for another video. I thought today we'd actually talk about the 7 eyes of God. We're told about them in Zechariah 4 and a few other passages, and the plumb line. And we're going to connect them all to part of the mystery, I guess is what we'll call it, because it speaks of a mystery being revealed in the book of Revelations. And it says by the 3.5-year mark, if I have it right, if I have it figured out right, that the mystery is completely revealed. And the 3.5-year mark would represent the midst. We've studied that what's in the midst is known as the flock of Bozrah. That's what they were called. And that was just simply another name for the righteous daughter Zion, representing the Spirit of God in the midst of the body, given in covenant to man, to teaching the laws of heaven. And we're told about that. We're told that Solomon changed this portion in the midst. And when you look at the menorah, the candle that's in the midst would be what's known as the western candle of God. The flame of God, which I believe would be another name for Ariel. She's also called the light of the world. And Job says, I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? So he's talking about the Spirit that's given covenant with him there. And that's the daughter Zion. He says, why then should I think upon a maid? For what portion of God is there from above? What inheritance from the Almighty from on high? I said a little different there. But he's telling you who's the wife of his covenant. That's what he's telling you. The portion of God that is from above, which is the Spirit. That's what it's telling you. Which is what's in the midst of the body, which was represented as the woman in the beginning that was took out. And what she does is she shapes him. She shapes the clay. That's what it's showing you. But then when she was took from the body, you also get the allegory that she's built. And the idea is the government of God that is built upon this earth. And so daughter Zion is promised that she will be built again. I forget in which passage that is, but that's not what we were really going to look at. So that's a very brief outline, what we've been looking at. And so what we're actually going to look at is those 7 eyes of God. And we're going to begin actually with the plumb line. And that's how we're going to hit the eyes of God, the 7 eyes of God, which we find in Zechariah chapter 4. So we'll begin with the plumb line, and it's going to take us to the plumb line in Zechariah. Okay? So Isaiah 40, verse 1, it says, comfort ye, my people, saith, wait a minute, your God. I must have that wrote down now. Okay. So let me just do this for a minute to bring up my passages. We'll read from here, because I make mistakes when I write. Okay, so comfort ye, my people, saith your God. This is Isaiah 40. This is about preparing the way for the Lord. Verse 2, speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem. So we're speaking to her, and cry unto her, it says, that her warfare is accomplished. This is going to point us to the army. This warfare. Tell her that her warfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned, for she hath received of the Lord's hand double for all her sins. So no man took her sins for her. This is the Spirit. That's who you're looking at. No man could bear her sins. She had to bear them herself. All right? She received double for all of her sin. She represents the Spirit. And when we go back to Israel, okay, we're going to get out of the way here for just a minute. She represents our mother that brought forth a son. And the reason why she had to bring forth a son, and God says, my own right hand brought forth the son, right? She says, I provided my own sacrifice, she says. Now she did that through her strong right hand, known as the daughter Zion, which is Israel. We'll go back to Israel, because that's your red heifer that was burned to ashes, that was used to cleanse the temple. Christ represents the temple, and he says there is one yet greater to come. He's referring to his Spirit. that he exalted upon his shoulder, known as the key of David, which is also the government of God upon this earth, for anybody who does their studying. So he doesn't cleanse her, but she had to bring forth a cleansed son. And she says her own right hand did that. That's the daughter of Zion, who brought forth a son that had been taught her way. All right? That makes him an acceptable offering unto Mother God, wherein she says, fine, the birthright belongs to you now. Now we find Jerusalem at war. All right? So here she's at war. It says, but speak comfortably to her and tell her that her warfare is accomplished. So we're looking at a future event. This is prophecy, all right? Because it says, make straight the desert and the highway for our God. Now we'll get back to that. When Christ come, he gives the righteous spirit back her birthright, because she provides a son that she cleansed, taught her way. So Mother says, fine, the birthright is yours. You'll battle it out with your adversary, the harlot spirit that Adam currently is exalting, and you'll take back your birthright, your vineyard, your children, and you will begin to teach them the new way. That hasn't happened yet. That's about to happen, because this is about the spirit which is saw as the branches in Romans 11. Because our mother was holy, then the daughters are going to be holy as well. So if you go to Romans 11, and again I'm getting off track here, just to show you, to bring you up to speed for anybody who don't watch my videos. If you don't watch them and you don't study them, then you're not going to know what I'm driving at. You're not going to know what I'm saying. You're going to lose your page. And you're just going to say, oh, she's a heretic. That's fine. Anyway, it says, verse 16, it says, for if the first fruits be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, and it was holy, that's Mother Israel, that was holy, or the right hand, her right hand, that brought forth a son taught by her as the Spirit that made her offering acceptable unto God. Now, people will say, you know, you're preaching another. No, this is saying she has received double for her sins. Christ didn't take her sins. She has bore them over time. And we're saw as that Lord, 136, that's her number. She's the sovereign Lord. We can link those passages that proves that she is your sovereign Lord. If you actually go into my what my channel is about, you'll get the verses there referencing you where she is called your governor, which leads you to the passage that tells you she is your sovereign Lord, which is your daughter Zion upon this earth. And so, actually, when you read in Romans 11, if what did I read? If the root is holy, so are the branches. So it's saying your mother was holy, the daughters are holy. All right. Once we come to that plumb line and to the capstone, all right, which we're going to get to, which is going to link us back to the 7 eyes of God upon the earth. Okay. Sorry. Now, it says, tell her that her warfare is accomplished. This takes us actually to the myrtle trees and to what Naomi says in the book of Ruth. She says, call me not Naomi, call me Mara. And that means bitter. But in Hebrew, bitterness has the idea of strength. So the idea behind that is, out of all of this bitterness, out of all of this oppression, from this harlot spirit's teachings and fallen Adam's teachings that keeps you oppressed, and in a bitterness and in a mourning, there eventually comes a strength. There arises a strength out of these daughters of Zion, wherein they do pick their head up. They do begin to understand what their role is, and they look at Mother. Now, the way that they look at Mother is through Christ the Son, okay? But you understand, He didn't cleanse them. It says the ashes of the heifer cleanses the tabernacle. My mother, Israel, cleansed the Son, because the Son received the Spirit's teachings, which comes from Mother God. which allows me access back to her. So it says, speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem and cry unto her that her warfare is accomplished, because she was gave permission to take her vineyard back. Now the way that she's been accomplishing that is in the Spirit, actually, which is actually going to take us through some different allegories here. So here we go. The voice of, not him, her, that crieth in the wilderness. Now she's in the wilderness. We're going to link these all back through words here to prove to you that it is she, the outcast spirit, the desolate woman that is in view here, and it is called her. Her warfare is accomplished and her iniquity is pardoned. Because she's been battling from the spirit, because this body rejected her. So she's in battle against the adversary in the spirit. For she has received of the Lord's hand double for all her sin. The voice of her that crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight the desert. In the desert, a highway for our God. So, guess what a highway is here? It's actually your plumb line. The straight way. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. So it's taking you to the idea of a plumb line, okay? Which is also the building of the new house by Zerubbabel, who began it. It began with our mother. It'll end with the daughters. All right? And Zerubbabel simply means, I'm not even saying it right, Zerubbabel, however you want to say it, means a stranger in Babylon. And that's precisely what we as the righteous spirit are. We are strangers in Babylon, in the harlot's territory. We're not teaching her harlot doctrines fed to her by Adam. Yeah, and we do get proof that he did actually take it upon himself to put false doctrines to her lips and make her his harlot. We get those references in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verses 15 and 16. And, but here we go. It says, so it's the plumb line in the wilderness. Now, okay, right. The voice of her, Jerusalem, that crieth in the wilderness. Okay. It's really her that's crying out. It's the daughter Zion crying out from the wilderness. Now, when you look the word wilderness up here, it's going to take you to Hebrew number 4057, which is desert. It's a desert. Get this. We're talking about daughter Zion here. We're going to link this all back to her. 4057, wilderness means desert or mouth. All right? We're actually looking at the mouth of God, the desert. She's in the desert. Zion is in the desert. And it also means the south. It means speech. It means wilderness. It means open field, whither cattle are driven to. By implication, a desert. Also, speech, including its organ of speech. Okay, your mouth. So what is Zion derived from? Well, the word Zion is number 6726, and it is derived from 6725. Now, 6725 means a signpost or a monument. That's another term for saying a beacon, a light. All right? And she is called the light. All right? She is given as the covenant, as the light in Isaiah 49, and it is daughter Zion there. And then that is going to be derived from Hebrew 6723, which means desert, dry land, parched ground, dry places. It's telling you who is the mouth of God here on earth, which is her covenant given to man to teaching the truth. And it's telling you it is daughter Zion. And she came to be dwelling in a dry land, whereupon you see her also linked to the Shulamite. She says, look not upon me because I am black, because the sun has looked upon me, because the mother's sons were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyard. So we've been keeping the harlot's vineyard. We've been playing his harlot is what we've been doing. But she calls her out of the desert in Hosea 2, and she gives her vineyard back. Here she says, tell her that her warfare is accomplished, that it's come to an end. Where do we find her? At war as the myrrh tree. Where do we find her and her soldiers? Well, we find her in the valley, in the low places of the world. Not on the mountains. We find her in the valley, in the low places where she has been driven to. Okay. So, let's keep reading. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert. There we hit the desert again, which is where the daughter Zion was driven to. A highway, a plumb line, a straight line for our God. Now, this connects it's the horsewomen shown as the myrrh trees, which links us back to Naomi, who says, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, which means bitterness. But out of that bitterness, she eventually picks her head up, all right, because she becomes strengthened actually from the oppression, whereas it cuts out a new stone. Or it says, oh wait, that's somewhere else. We won't get into it yet. Sorry about that. So here it says, every valley shall be exalted. All right, we're going to go back to Zechariah in a minute, or go to Zechariah in a minute. And every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked places shall be made straight. This takes us to the plumb line. And the rough places plain. Oh, look at that, plain. Guess what plain means? Let's look it up here. I did not. That's the one I didn't write out because I wrote so much other stuff out and I ran out of room. So 1237. Let me see here. But it's interesting. It's spelled the exact same way as the plain spoken of in Zechariah. And we'll go there. But it is 1237. It's a feminine word, which is important. 1237. Properly, a wide level valley between mountains, a plain, a valley. That's a low place. All right? So she's not in the mountains, she's in the low place. But we're going to understand what God means by that plain in a minute. All right? So let's go to Zechariah 4 and see what God says here about a plain. Okay? And about the 7 eyes. Okay. So, verse 7, what does it say? It says, who art thou, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel, thou shalt become a plain. And she shall bring forth the headstone thereof with shoutings, crying, grace, grace, unto it. Headstone here is feminine. It means your chief, means your ruler. It's actually representing your glory. It's, and that actually is going to lead you to your kephale in the New Testament. Christ says, I'm your head. Kephale there is spirit. All right, and your spirit is feminine, and it's your headstone here showing you precisely who began the building of the body will also finish the building of the body. And the capstone is your glory, the feminine. All right, and plain here means this. Okay, now let me find it in my notes. I wrote it down. Okay, so it's Hebrew number 4334, and it means a level place, uprightness, equity, you see, equality, fairness, justice, you see, that's what it means. And she shall bring forth the headstone thereof with shoutings, crying, grace, grace, unto it. So, and it means your topmost stone. It's Hebrew number 7222. Here is your headstone. They say it's a capstone, a headstone, a topmost stone. Yeah, your head. It's your head. And it's representing your spirit, your glory, woman, known as daughter Zion, who will be put back in her rightful place. But she was in battle. She's in conflict against the harlot spirit. So Zechariah 1 verse 8, it says standing among the myrtle trees. And myrtle is where you get your bitterness from. So Naomi says, call me not Mara, which means bitter, call me strong. So this is your horse women. All right, we're getting to your 7 eyes here upon the earth. I saw by night, and behold, a woman. This is the outcast daughter Zion, who is in battle against her adversary as Jerusalem in Isaiah 40. All right, it says, tell her warfare is ended. Okay, and so she stood among the myrtle trees that were in the bottom, in the valley. Women are at the bottom of everything. And behold, that's the glory. And behold her here. Yeah. And behind her were their red horses speckled in white. Verse 9. So the question gets asked, what are these? All right. And the angel of the Lord says, I will show you. Verse 10. And the woman, it's not a man, that stood among the myrtle trees answered and said, these are they, whom the Lord hath sent to walk to and fro through the earth. That's your eyes. That's your spirit. And Zechariah 1:11, and they, whoops, I skipped 2 pages there. Yeah, I guess I was in the right spot. Zechariah 1:11, and they answered the angel of the Lord that stood among the myrtle trees and said, we have walked to and fro through the earth, and behold, all the earth sitteth still and is at rest. I wonder if that ain't now, sort of. I know we seem to be in upheaval, but a great deal of the earth has they've been put in lockdown. So you kind of question where we are to some degree in prophecy, truly. But Isaiah 40 verse 5, do I want to move there yet? No, I want to go back to Zechariah. Right. So actually what that straightway with the spirit of with the Lord in warfare as Jerusalem in Isaiah 40 leads us actually directly to this verse. In Zechariah 4 verse 10 it says, for who hath despised the day of small things? For they shall rejoice and they shall see the plummet line. That's your straight way. That's your straight path. And the way that these bodies, this temple is built, is by going the straight way through the Spirit's teachings. So it says, build up the straight way for the Lord in the hand of Zerubbabel with those 7 eyes. They are the eyes of the Lord which run to and fro through the whole earth. Now, the Lord closed our eyes in Isaiah 29 verse 10. We went to sleep as the Spirit of the Lord. We women did. We did. So Isaiah 29 verse 10 says this. Get there. I'm in the wrong chapter. Okay. Verse 10. It says, for the Lord hath poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep and hath closed your eyes. The prophets and your rulers, the seers, has she covered. So we went to sleep and we closed our eyes. You know what the occult world teaches us? All right, now here we're going to look at a little bit of what they speak on online to some degree. And it's that capstone that is pictured on the American $1 bill, I think. I don't know, I've never actually seen it. Other than in pictures, of course. I don't actually have an American dollar bill. But, and they picture this capstone with an eye on it. And a lot of them, if you listen to anything they tell you, will tell you it's pointing you actually to your third eye. Your pineal gland. I'm going to say, no it ain't. There's no way it's pointing you to your pineal gland where your dreams come from. And forgive me for being a bit, I don't like to say the word here, but it's where they get their wet dreams from, which is actually going to link you back to your prophets, your false prophets in Jeremiah 23 that were prophesying false visions out of their own minds. And it's also the reason why the occult world thinks the way that they're going to reach God is through having sex. Your pineal gland. Now, before you dismiss me saying that it's not your pineal gland how you reach God, listen to this information, and I'm going to post it under in my description, the link to this. It's your occipital lobe. And I've always said, I hear God here. I can't really explain to you how. It feels like God comes from this area to me. God don't come from here or here. God comes from here. It's always been here that I hear God's voice. Now that's the area of your occipital lobe. This is what it says. The occipital lobe is located in a triangle, the apex of which is the parietal lobe and the sides of the temporal lobes of the brain. The cerebellum is positioned below the occipital lobe. This part has a variable structure, but its key function is processing visual information. The visual cortex located on both hemispheres of the occipital lobe provides a binocular vision. The world seems vast and wide to the human eye, which God speaks of the eye, the pupil of her eye. All right, and again, she's speaking about the daughter that she teaches. All right, how to see. You understand, before your body can actually move on the clean footpath, it has to see it first. You see? And so it takes us back to these 7 eyes moving upon the earth and seeing the truth, right? Once those 7 eyes move to and fro throughout the whole earth, and they get to see the whole earth, they begin to understand what the clean footpath is. Before you can even begin to walk on a clean footpath, you better see it first. You have to see it. So she's saying, these 7 eyes are mine. You won't come to me this way. This is the wrong way. You tried to crawl in through a window with that one. That's what you boys tried to do. That's what you girls tried to do. You tried to crawl in through this way. This is the way you're going to find me. By opening up your eyes and seeing what's going on planet Earth. And that is alluded to again in Isaiah 29. Let's go there. I didn't say everything I want to say here yet. Isaiah 29 verse 10. It says, I already read that one. Now, for the Lord hath poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and hath closed your eyes. The prophets and your rulers, the seers has she covered. Nope, I got the wrong verse, sorry. Verse 7. And the multitude of all the nations that fight against Ariel, look the word Ariel up there, it means lioness of God. The name of Israel is derived from Sarah and El, which means God strives. This is Jerusalem in warfare against the harlot spirit to take back her vineyard, which she is allowed to claim back because she offers up a sacrifice proving that she can teach the truth of heaven, that what they told was lies. We've already examined those portions of text throughout many of my videos. But she says, and the multitude of all the nations that fights against Ariel, even all that fight against her and her munition, and that distress her, shall be a dream, as a dream of a night vision. You see, wake up out of this lie. All right, through all these false visions and false dreamers that God tells you about in Jeremiah 23, and says, they taught to you Baal, and you listened to his teachings. All right, let's go there. Jeremiah 23. Open your eyes is what God is saying. And take a look around you at the truth that you see playing out before your very eyes. And tell me you're going to deny it. That man laws hasn't subjugated women under him. You tell me that. All right? And that they teach he. They're in full agreement, all 3 religions, great religions of the world. Muhammad woke up, pull up the Prophet Muhammad and wake up and read what is written on him. It's extensive. But he woke up one day and said one of the key points that he was told to teach was that God was monotheistic. It was one male, and he was to teach that. Yeah. That lines up with Judaism. Monotheistic teaching. God is one male. God is one. Worship God as male. Man, you see? And then the Christians diverged a little bit, and then that broke that male up to 3 males, is what they did. But they're all in full agreement, you see? To continually subjugate the feminine under them. And you're not getting that? You're not getting that. You're not understanding that. That the second half, okay, of the Messianic Godhead is the glory and the grace and the Spirit that gives life to all things. And you can't see that in this creation. You don't bear witness to God's creation, testifying to that fact. And then testifying to the fact that man-made law subjugates women under man. You're not testifying to that? This creation don't testify to that? Your eyes are bearing witness to it. The 7 eyes. The Spirit of the Lord is bearing witness to it. I guarantee you that. And they are found here in your occipital lobe that is shaped like a triangle where your visual understanding and perception actually resides. All right? So they've been very underhanded and saying, well, no, we've told them if they're too stupid to figure it out, you can't blame us for it. We've told it to them. Well, yeah, and that's just what it does say. So we'll continue on with the occipital lobe here. And I'm going to go to Jeremiah 23 in a minute, and we'll pick that verse up. The visual cortex, called the associative area, constantly communicates with other brain structures, forming a complete image of the world. That's why it's your eyes. She also says in Isaiah 42, I forget the verse, but I think it's Isaiah 42, she says, who is blind but my servant? Her servant's Israel. Her servant is daughter Zion. She's been blinded. And she tells us why she's been blinded. In the verse in Isaiah 29, she says, I have poured out the Spirit of sleep upon your eyes. You have closed your eyes because I poured out the Spirit to close your eyes. So, and then we see Zion tell her warfare is ended. And if you read in Zechariah about the myrtle trees, she says, how long, O Lord? It has been 70 years. I don't think it's 70 years. I think it could be translated 7,000 years. Because you see the foreskin, which represents the covenant with the harlot, the foreskin does, is cut away on the 8th day. You see? I don't know. Somebody might be coming home. And that's a symbol of the new day. All right? But on the 8th day, she cuts that covenant away, it says, and it's disannulled. It gets disannulled. And again, Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, chapter 28. And she says, this was not the wife of your youth, of your covenant. It was the righteous spirit daughter Zion that was the wife of your covenant, who you razed her to the ground. You didn't want to covenant with her, and you built Babylon up, a harlot spirit that would allow you to rule yourself. That's what you did. But in Isaiah 28, she tells the men who thinks they're going to be protected by this covenant. What does she say? In verse 18 of Isaiah 28, she says, and your covenant with death shall be disannulled, or disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then ye shall be trodden down by it. So this is the cutting away of the foreskin. That's what you're seeing there, which happens on the 8th day. And the 8th day, as we come to know it, is known as the new day, or the new day dawning, all right? And we know she is the light of the world, described in Isaiah 49. We discussed this a little bit in our last video. And she also gets brighter and brighter as the Shulamite in the Song of Songs. It says, who is this that's growing brighter and brighter like the sun? All right? And that sun kind of takes you to the woman in Revelation 12 delivering her children. All right? And it's the 12 stars on her head is representative of the 12 daughters or the 12 tribes of the daughter of Zion. And they birth the children. All right? All right. So Jeremiah 23, what does she say? She says, you forgot my name for Baal. Did I circle it by any chance? Nope, she didn't circle it. Let's see. Run through this quick. I think it's quite a ways in. But she says, you men who imagine that you are the gods that will deliver children, and you say it's a burden unto me, unto the daughter Zion, unto Jerusalem, unto Israel. Okay, I'm coming up on it. This is quite a long chapter. But where is it? But she says, you taught Baal. And it was something you dreamed up through your pineal gland. And yes, I know Jacob fought with the angel, and that place came to be known as Pineal. But we're trying to understand the truth. So, where is it? Okay, I'll find it. You just give me 1 second here. I'm more impatient with me, I think, than you are with me, but maybe you are too. Right here, yeah. Well, I'm actually trying to look for the word Baal here, and it does show up in this chapter. Where is it? It says they prophesied lies in her name, right there, verse 27, which think to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams. You see, you get your dreams from your pineal gland. By their dreams, which they tell every man to his neighbor as their fathers. I think it's we who forgot what mother called Baal. As their mothers have forgotten my name for Baal. So over time we actually forgot that God called our husband Baal. Who then, that name Baal actually is going to link you in the New Testament to the word Beelzebub. For anybody who's followed me. Which I believe is known as the Lord of Dung. Alright? Because that's really what this world's found on. Dung, right now. Or the false foundation, not the false foundation, but the false stronghold. Daughter Zion's your stronghold. They built a lying foundation, or stronghold, known as the harlot spirit Babylon, so they could write their own laws and subjugate women. But Beelzebub is known as the Lord of Dung, which is going to link you to Satan, known as your accuser. And we know who accused. It was the man in the beginning. He accused the righteous spirit. I mean, to the point that with him and the harlot spirit, he pointed at her and says, her fault, where she remained silent. She just did not know what to even say to it. And so she had to actually go into battle, which is represented as the myrrh trees of Jerusalem. This is her at battle with the harlot spirit in the spirit. That's why I dreamt of a dream where I was very dark, and yet I had been given new water, and that water represents the Word of God, where you are to be watered from. It tells us in Proverbs 5, you are to receive your waters from your wife, from your own wife, not from your harlot spirit. And yet we know he took a harlot wife unto himself because of what is said in Malachi 2. Judah turned on Israel. He did. He turned on the wife of his youth. And she says, in Psalm 50. She says, you thought I was just like you. You thought I was going to go along with your lies. That's what you thought. Verse 20. Psalm 50, verse 20. Thou sittest and speakest against thy sister, or your spouse. Thou slanderest thine own mother's daughter. And that's just what he did. He slandered her. He pointed at her and accused her. I mean, can you imagine what it did to her? She was silenced by his lie, literally. These things hast thou done, and I kept silent. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such as one of thyself. I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes. This is the spirit called your Asaph, called your gatherer, called your female assembler, spoken of in Ecclesiastic chapter 12. And she says, now consider this, ye that forget God, lest I tear you in pieces, and there be none to deliver you. That's your Ariel. That's your lioness of God. And it is lioness. It's a feminine. It is not a masculine. It tells you that right when you look the word up. But it's also it also says hearth. She became unto God an altar hearth. All right? Which leads you to the ashes of the red heifer, which the red heifer represents Israel. The heifer in view in the Genesis 15:9 covenant also represents Israel, the mother, for restoration. And then you have your she-goat. You also have your ram there, which is the new Adam, that was restored by the Spirit. Okay? And it says, he's not your master, your Lord and master. It tells you that. It says your husband is not your Lord and your master. It is mother saying, I'm the creator. I gave life to you. I shaped you and formed you. I did that. You can't tell that as a truth in this creation. Your eyes can't see that. The 7 eyes of the Lord that moves throughout the world. All right? And they're the capstone as well, is what out of these 7 comes 1, is the idea. But your plumb line takes you straight back to the straight path that we are to build, or build ye up the way unto the Lord in Isaiah 40, right? Does it say, the voice of her that crieth in the wilderness? That's Zion, the outcast that no one sought for. The derivatives of Zion will lead you to the desert, which we're also told is the mouth of God if we go in and we study our words and our terminology. So she is the way, all right, the straight path. She's going to give you the straight path. Every valley, all right, is going to be exalted. The high places, that's your male rulers, your he-goats, are going to be cast down. Your harlot spirit's going to be cast down. And then she's going to be restored as the spirit of this body. But it requires her picking her head up and saying, okay, I'm forgiven. It says, I've been forgiven. That my warfare is coming to an end. Alright? We have battled this in the spirit, is what many of us daughters is actually seeing. And the sons as well, that are of us. Alright? Of that righteous spirit's teachings. Alright? And that's going to show on this earth. Because she says so here in Isaiah 40 again. What does she say? She says, and the glory of the Lord, this is verse 5, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. For the mouth, which takes you to daughter Zion, we just linked it, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. All right? And that comes from daughter Zion, who represents the spirit of the new Adam, who's picked her head up and says, yeah, I've been forgiven. This birthright belongs to me. I can now come out of the wilderness and teach my vineyard the truth. And that's a truth of equity. It is not that, he's over you. Go to Hosea 2. I know they say, man, God's male, you know, he's dealt with that wicked wife of his. No, that's from Baal. That's from your wicked dreamers who wanted to subjugate the righteous spirit under them. Where was I going? Now I can't remember. But what did they do? They razed her to the ground, is what they did. And it tells us in Isaiah 37 that this was planned long ago to take place. And we also know from Romans 11 exactly why it was planned, to restore back the nations. And that is her birthright. She says, you will now not only inhabit Israelites, you'll inhabit the Gentiles as yours as well. That's why they actually were cast out there. To be able to claim them. But what does it say? Verse 16 of 37 is the repeat chapter. It says, O Lord of hosts, God of Israel, that dwellest between the cherubims, thou art the God, even thou alone. Of all the kingdoms of the earth, thou hast made heaven and earth. Now we know that she's the sovereign Lord. She is promised to have the dominion restored back to her. And then that leads us all back to her as with the title of Sovereign Lord. And it says, let me find it now. Verse 22 of Isaiah 37. This is the word of the Lord has spoken concerning him, all right, concerning the Assyrian, I think it was at this time, who had come up against the king of Israel. And Hezekiah had went up to the Lord that dwelt between the cherubim and spoke to them, or Isaiah had took his message up. And this was what the word of the Lord that spoke concerning him. This is showing you who dwells between the cherubim. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, has despised thee, and laughed thee to scorn, and the daughter of Jerusalem has shaken her head at thee. So this is representative of your spirit right here. That was in full control of everything. Now I'm going to share with you one last thing. I know I'll get looking at the video and said I forgot this, I forgot that. But the thing I'm going to share with you is we're Babylon right now. We're Babylon. That's what we are. But when these daughters are restored, you know what we're known as? We're known as Israel, where the entire heavens is going to get their doctrine and their law from. And you say, well, you can't prove that. Yes, I can. That's why these daughters are cast out into the fields of the Gentiles, so they can claim all the Gentile nations and Israel. And it also states in another passage that it's literally Israel as the seed that claims the Gentiles. I forget the passage, but I just hit it a day or two ago. And it says that it says your seed, and it's talking about Israel, will inherit the Gentiles. Now it's referring to the woman's seed, known as the daughter Zion, inheriting the Gentiles as her seed. But Isaiah 27, and if you go and study the waters that flow out from Jerusalem in the new temple, the new body, it's actually an allegory to the new earth, all right? Which is the new temple established where the new waters will flow out from throughout the entire new heavens. Her law will go forth. And it says the islands wait for her law. Well, if you go to Isaiah 27, after she's conquered the Leviathan, which is this lying system, it's an allegory to this lying system, what does it say? Verse 6. Isaiah 27 verse 6 tells you where the new Zion, earth is the new Zion, that our waters is going to feed out into the new heavens. Alright? It says she, not he. Israel is she, not he. She shall cause them that come of her to take root, or take the that come of Israel, the new seed. We're talking the new seed here, which is what's in view in Romans 9, and they're not flesh. All right? It says that come of Israel to take root. Israel shall blossom and bud and fill the face of the world with fruit. That means the restoration of daughter Zion as your righteous spirit, where you're going to find your doctrines of truth and the law of heaven. All right? And she gets established, all right, as the center, the Holy of Holies. Anybody who says earth isn't the center, they'll say, well, they taught long ago that earth was the center of the heaven. She is, because she's what belongs in the Holy of Holies. But she began to teach a harlot spirit's way, which was Adam's way, which was that he wanted to rule himself. And then it takes us to this idea that the body that he creates for himself is cobwebs. It can't sustain him. We die. Because a harlot spirit's what's exalted in the midst of the body. It is only the righteous spirit that can give eternal life. That's it. And that eternal spirit is represented by the daughter Zion. Alright? Now I'm growing in this. I'm growing in this understanding. I ain't saying I got it all down. But allow me to make my mistakes, will you? And search for yourself this deeper truth. You like being under a man? You like the idea that when we ascend into heaven, it's just going to be the same way? You're going to be under another man? Is that it? That's how this works. As below, so above. Well, you forget what the occult world shows us. What do they show us? This is what they show us. That's what they show you. Let's draw a line between the two. Guess who's the head here? Guess who's the head? The spirit. Where's her head on earth? It's in the low places. It's driven into the ground. Because if you pay attention to the occult world, they exalt the key of Solomon, which is the harlot spirit, which is designed to drive us into the ground and to exalt man. But you see, it's not as above, so below. They lie. Flip it upright. Flip it upright. That's your head. Your spirit, your righteous spirit. And they drove her head into the ground, is what they did. And put you under a man. Daughter Zion had to provide a clean offering, a clean sacrifice, proving that she never left the teachings of Mother. All right? And yes, he's made in the image of the Father. And we're told she's the one that laid the heavens out. Because she says she's doing the same for her daughters. In Isaiah 54. We can't reason these texts out. We can't reason them because we're too caught up in man-made theology. We're too busy letting him do our reasoning for us instead of letting the Spirit do it for us. Isaiah 54. Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, thou that didst not travail with child. What does that mean? It means they didn't receive the righteous spirit's teaching, and she became desolate and shoved out into a wilderness, into a desert land. All right? But it says, for more are the children of the desolate, that's the righteous spirit, than the children of the married wife, saith the Lord. That married wife, when you go look the word up, it's 1166, and it takes you to 1167, which then takes you to 1168, which is all to do with Baal. So, more or less, this married wife is actually his teachings. That's what it's telling you. She's playing his harlot. It says he put strong drink to her lip, or put drink to her lip, so that he could expose her nakedness, make her his harlot. So she'd teach his lies and be under him and let him get away with suppressing her and subjugating her. And that's why she's in warfare. The spirit, righteous spirit, is in warfare, and you see them as the myrrh trees in bitterness. Naomi says, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara. But that bitterness ought to lead to a strength. All right? All that suppression and mourning of the spirit, which darkens us. It's a symbol of our mourning as well. All right? Our darkness in the spirit. And but it ought to lead to a strengthening of the spirit to the point where you pick your head up. All right? And this is what is coming into play, I think. I don't know, maybe we're getting ready to go into warfare and complete it. And maybe it's over. Maybe the full restoration is about to begin. But if we are only at the 7,000 year mark, no, that would line up to the 70. Because some says the last 7 years of the trib plays out during the last 7 years of that 6,000 on the tail end, if I remember it right. I may have that wrong again. But if we think of 7,000 years, the 70 years as 7,000 years, and then you speak of the millennial reign, then that takes us into an 8th day, which is the symbol of the cutting away, or the covenant with the harlot spirit being disannulled, or disannulled. So you're looking at all your allegory there. So I'm thinking our time frame is off somewhere, because it says the enemy is smart enough to concede on changing times. And so you question, if this is what we're looking at, the end here, then we are upon the cutting away, which would then put us at 8,000, the 8,000 year, because that's when your cutting away of the foreskin takes place, which is representative of the cutting away of the covenant with the harlot spirit. All right? And we know that that covenant is going to be disannulled, and it'll be disannulled at 8,000, or the 8th day. Right? Because it says 1,000 years is as a day unto the Lord. So I say we've got something wrong here in our time frame. And I know over time, if the Spirit's gonna reveal it. I know the doctrine's wrong. A man is not over a woman, never was. Also, I wanted to get into a little bit about Enoch, about the Watchers, because those were the daughters of Zion, representing your spirit that's cast out into the desert. And they did take husbands. It says wives, because they change everything around. And these daughters gave birth to giants upon this earth. And what that means is they raised sons up that became your big men of earth, your rulers of the earth, and put in play a law, this law that subjugates daughters and women under men. But then they tell Enoch to take, I can't remember, I wish I had brought it with me, so I probably got this wrong, but tells Enoch to take a message to God, and God's message to those Watchers, which are your holy ones, in the book of Daniel, which in your holy ones we know are linked to the daughter Zion. We know that's what she's called, the Holy One of Israel. And I can prove it. I'm not going to prove it on this video. If you do your own homework, you can prove it to yourself. Simply through the key of David, key of Solomon. They're in total opposition to one another. Anyway, Enoch, she sends the message back with Enoch. She says, you don't send a man to me. You come yourself. You don't send a man. You're to represent him, not him representing you. But you sent a man. And it says that in the book of Enoch. Now, I can't remember. I was looking at it. But she says to her daughters, how dare you send a man to me? You were given covenant to teach him the laws of heaven. Don't send him. You come yourself. But you see, they were that afraid. They were that afraid. So I'll find the passage and maybe I'll post it again in the notes when I post this video. So I'm sorry if I'm a bit messed up, but I get the distinct feeling that many are not understanding what I'm driving at here. Alright? And I am driving at the Messianic Godhead, the Spirit, which is the glory that sits on top. She is about to appear. If you think you're saved through a lying theology that teaches male, 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 and you're going home based on that lying theology, then you really do have something screwed up in your thinking. Christ says, you can blaspheme me, the Son, and get away with it. But you're not going to blaspheme the Spirit and get away with it. Because it is her teachings and her laws that's going to permit you into the new heavens. And she does actually have to appear in a literal form upon this earth. And she's going to know who she is. They are. They're going to know it. And they're going to get stronger and stronger and grow brighter and brighter, especially perhaps under oppression, which it looks like it's here. They're going to try to put in that old covenant between the harlot and fallen Adam. So, which we're told it's what came from Mount Sinai that did that. It's not this Noahide law. It was the Mosaic law that did that. Let's look at that real quick and then I'm leaving. And that's in Galatians 4. Alright? What does it say in Galatians 4? It says, for this Hagar, is Mount Sinai in Arabia and answereth to Jerusalem. So she's what fed out to the four corners of the world, this lion theology, which now is and is in bondage with her children. It's already in play. They're just going to try to put it in play again. Alright? But this is the law that's subjugating us and our children under man's lion theology. And that's why she became a desolate woman. They become Hagar's children. In allegory, they become Hagar's children, the harlot spirit's children. And they're under bondage because she's a harlot. But Jerusalem, which was represented by Sarah, is above and is free, which is the mother of us all. So she gives life to everything. Eve's name meant mother of all living. Man don't give you life. Father don't give you life. Mother gives you life. And we cast her off. Didn't want to covenant with her when we cast the daughters off. And when we began to teach a lying theology that totally says, she's not the one the covenant's with, it's with the harlot. And so we're actually kind of playing this harlot. But at the end, these daughters, it looks like, who were the mothers in the beginning, are rebirthed out of the dust of the earth again. I'm having memories. I believe they're memories. The Lord led me to my own name, which means remembrance. It's 34:15 Greek. I don't like to talk about myself, but I mean, but then there's a word. It says it comes down to you personally pursuing this truth for yourself on a personal level. And you have to determine to do that what God expects out of each one of us. And that includes daughters, all right? And certainly the righteous sons who are made in their father's image, who are cut out by the righteous spirit, they're going to see the sense and reasoning in this, all right? They're not going to just cast it away without going and looking into it themselves. The key of David is the daughter Zion that was razed to the ground. And the key of Solomon, which is in total opposition, teaches a harlot spirit. And that is what the occult world shows you. They also show you a triangle with an eye in it. And that's not your pineal gland. It's not your third eye. It's not your dream world. We're going to wake as if from a dream, it says. And the only way we're going to do that is by using our eyes that God provides for us. It's actually represented as a triangle. The occipital lobe in the back here is shaped as a triangle, as an apex, it says, which is another name for your top, and where your visual perception lies. So it's all in how we look at it. And we've been taught to look at things in a very distorted way. It's wrong. And so it comes back to that plumb stone and the seven eyes and laying out a straight path for the Lord to come in and indwell us, these daughters, which is your first fruits fully indwelt, because they are her inheritance, it says. And I tend to think that seems to remain the same. So, alright, there's my video. Thanks all for watching, and trying to study and pick up things that I know we fight against, I know I did in the very beginning. I've been at this for quite a few years now. I think my real journey, late 2010, 2011, I began to start to question, I think ask the right questions that I needed to ask, and began to look at things in the way the Spirit needed me to begin to look at them so she could continue to teach me. And so I've been at it for a while, but in the beginning, you would not believe how much I kept stepping back away. Because I've been taught this my whole life, all right? I had been taught this. And I believed it. You can say, no, you didn't. Yes, I did. But then there came a point, and I'd still link it to about 2011 to 2013, somewhere in that time frame. The Lord gave me a list of words where she told me I had been separated. I had been set apart. Now that's the word she kept giving me. And then she led me to the understanding, and I can't speak for the other daughters of Zion here on this, but she also gave me the understanding that I was allowed to pursue this truth and go down the paths that I needed to go down in order to find the truth. She says, don't worry, I'll take you down the truth. In the end, you'll have the truth, but you're going to have to pursue it in ways that are considered atypical. They're not your normal pathways that you would pursue the truth through. So she told me that, and I questioned it for a long time, but then she just kept reinforcing this truth for me in so many ways. Words, daily life. So that's part of my testimony and my witnessing. And so again, I want to thank any who pulls up my videos and watch them. I appreciate it. And I hope you all have a really nice day.